seen aircraft carriers before, but you've never actually seen what they do. So why do most naval films get it completely wrong? Because a real U.S. carrier strike group isn't just jets and explosions, it's a system so precise that one mistake can collapse everything. In this video, we're breaking down the only films that accidentally got it right, and one of them reveals something the military rarely shows.
Do it.
Behind Enemy Lines, 2001, it looks like a rescue mission. But the real story is happening far from the crash site. At first, everything pulls your attention toward the pilot. Alone, hunted, cut off. The camera stays with him. The danger feels immediate, personal, urgent. You're meant to focus on survival. But the deeper truth sits quietly in the background, inside the carrier. And this film doesn't announce its realism. It conceals it beneath urgency, and that's what makes it effective. Watch closely, and a different system begins to reveal itself. Not chaos, not panic, but controlled pressure. Information doesn't rush, it climbs. Reports are gathered, filtered, questioned. Intelligence is never accepted instantly. It's reshaped before it becomes action. And that delay matters. Because this isn't just about saving a man, it's about consequences. Every move the carrier makes extends beyond the battlefield, into politics, into diplomacy, into risk that cannot be reversed. Air support isn't immediate. Requests are reviewed, missions are paused. Not because they lack capability, but because they lack permission. That's the uncomfortable truth most films avoid. A carrier strike group isn't always unleashed. Sometimes it's held back intentionally, and that restraint creates a different kind of tension, one that builds slowly, quietly. Because while the pilot is moving, hiding, surviving, time is stretching in the command center. Pressure builds not from action, but from inaction, and eventually the decision becomes unavoidable. Protocol. Or human life. That's where the film becomes unexpectedly accurate. It shows that command isn't about reacting. It's about choosing when not to act. Power isn't defined by what you do. It's defined by what you refuse to do until the moment demands it. Because once that restraint breaks, everything changes at once. Hunter-Killer, 2018. It doesn't show you the carrier directly, and that's exactly why it feels real. Most war films isolate the battlefield. They give you one perspective, one location, one line of action to follow. This one does the opposite. On the surface, it's a submarine story. Tight corridors, controlled silence, unseen threats moving in darkness. But beneath that layer lies something far more important, a system that never stops connecting. Because a carrier strike group is never a single viewpoint. It's layers operating simultaneously. Submarines track what cannot be seen. Surface ships monitor what is approaching. Aircraft extend awareness beyond physical limits. And somewhere above it all, command attempts to assemble a complete picture from incomplete fragments. Hunter-Killer taps into that structure without over-explaining it. Communication isn't constant, it's selective. Information arrives late, partial, sometimes unclear. Orders are given with gaps in understanding. And yet, they must still be followed. That's where the tension comes from. Not from explosions, but from uncertainty. Because in real naval operations, there is no full awareness. No moment where everything becomes clear. Only fragments moving through different layers of the system, and those fragments must align perfectly enough to act. This is where the film becomes quietly accurate. It shows that coordination isn't smooth, it's fragile, dependent on timing, discipline, and trust between units that may never physically interact. One delay shifts the balance. One misread signal creates a chain reaction, And suddenly, what looked controlled begins to destabilize. A carrier strike group doesn't operate as a single force. It operates as interdependent uncertainty held together by command. And command isn't about certainty, or it's about making decisions when certainty doesn't exist. Because if one layer fails, even briefly, everything beneath it starts to unravel.
I'm hit! Dashboard!
Top Gun, 1986. It feels like adrenaline, but underneath, it's precision. The music, the rivalry, the speed, that's what most people remember. It feels fast, energetic, almost reckless at times, but remove the sound, remove the personality, and what remains is structure. Because nothing on a carrier deck is accidental. Every movement has a purpose. Every signal carries meaning. What looks like chaos is actually discipline operating at maximum speed. Jets don't move when pilots feel ready. They move when the system allows it. Timing isn't flexible, it's enforced. Deck crews aren't reacting. They're executing predefined roles with exact coordination. One person signals, another responds, a third confirms, and the entire sequence continues without interruption, because interruption is failure, and failure on a carrier deck doesn't stay contained. It spreads. A delayed launch affects positioning. A mistimed recovery disrupts the entire cycle. A single misstep can ripple outward, affecting aircraft, crew, and mission timing simultaneously. That's the reality hidden beneath the spectacle. And landings, they aren't dramatic. They're unforgiving. There is no margin for comfort. The angle must be exact. The speed must be precise. The hook must connect perfectly. One small deviation, and the outcome changes instantly. Top Gun doesn't explain this system. It shows it. Through repetition, through rhythm, through consistency. That's what makes it powerful. Because without saying it directly, it reveals how the most visible part of a carrier strike group, the air wing, actually operates. This is the offensive edge of the system. Fast, precise, controlled. But that control doesn't come from instinct. It comes from structure so rigid, it allows no error. And behind every successful launch, every clean landing, every perfect sequence, there is an entire machine working silently to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Because on a carrier, nothing is left to chance.
Maverick, how about some help?
Is inaccurate.
Problem up here. That make me... Damn it!
Comanche 1.
Top Gun, Maverick, 2022. This is where precision stops being visual and becomes strategic. Everything moves faster now, not just jets, but decisions. At first, it feels like escalation, better aircraft, sharper visuals, higher stakes. But look closer, and something else begins to emerge. Control, or Top Gun. Maverick doesn't rely on spectacle. It builds structure. Every mission is broken down, tested, failed, and rebuilt. Pilots don't just fly, they rehearse until instinct becomes calculation, and that's where the illusion collapses. Because a real strike isn't about bravery. It's about alignment. Multiple aircraft entering hostile space within seconds of each other. Different roles, different altitudes, different responsibilities, and yet everything must connect perfectly. Too early, and the defense system activates. Too late, and the window closes. There's no flexibility in that moment, only execution. This is what most films miss. They show action. This shows timing. Fuel constraints aren't background details. They shape the mission. Terrain isn't scenery. It's used as concealment. Radar exposure isn't theoretical. It's the difference between survival and failure. Every variable matters. And yet, Even with all that planning, nothing is guaranteed. That's the tension the film captures so precisely. The space between what's calculated and what actually happens. Because once the mission begins, control starts to slip. Unexpected movement, slight delays, human reaction, and suddenly perfection becomes fragile. A carrier strike group doesn't rely on strength. It relies on perfect synchronization under extreme pressure. When everything aligns, it looks effortless. But that effortlessness is an illusion built on repetition, discipline, and risk. Because behind every clean strike, there were dozens of failures no one ever saw.
Holy shit!
Greyhound, 2020. There's no spectacle here. Just pressure that never stops. No music to guide you, no dramatic pause to reset the moment, just decisions stacking on top of each other. Greyhound doesn't give you time to adjust. It places you inside command and keeps you there. Every second carries weight. Every signal demands interpretation. Radar shows something, or maybe nothing. Sonar detects movement, or maybe interference. There is no clarity. And yet, action cannot wait. This is the part most war films avoid, the uncertainty, the mental strain of acting without full information, because in reality, hesitation is as dangerous as a wrong decision. That's where the film becomes brutally accurate. You're not watching a battle. You're watching responsibility unfold in real time, because ships like this don't exist for glory. They exist to protect something far more valuable. A carrier strike group depends on vessels like this to survive. They are the outer layer, the shield that absorbs the unknown before it reaches the core. Submarine threats, incoming attacks, invisible dangers moving beneath the surface, and they face it first, constantly scanning, constantly adjusting, never switching off. What makes Greyhound different is its honesty. There are no breaks in tension, no emotional release, just continuous pressure building with every passing moment. Because awareness isn't optional, it's survival. Lose focus for even a second, and the entire system becomes exposed. That's the truth this film reveals. Not the power of naval warfare, but the cost of maintaining it. And once you understand that, you begin to see a carrier strike group not as strength, but as endurance under relentless uncertainty. And you've seen the power, the launches, the strikes, the spectacle. But now you understand the truth behind it. A carrier strike group isn't built on action. It's built on control, timing, and decisions made under pressure. And the most dangerous part? It's not when everything moves fast. It's when everything waits, because that's when the real outcome is decided.